I've been living up here on the sunny coast for 5 years now. I finally get one of my best mates come up and visit me for the day. Thanks so much for popping up, Lukey. How you feeling, man?
Sim, thanks for having me, mate. It's been a while. I haven't got up here, so...
I know, bro. Yeah. No, it's good to finally come up. I remember, finally starting to talk about property investing a little while ago. It was even before I started getting into property investing. Like you and Davo first started talking more about property investing with Benny before I even got into it. I think I was still at university at the time when you first bought your first joint way back when. But today's podcast, guys, we're going to talk a little bit about Luke's journey as a property investor so far. 3 properties before the age of 30, has been consistently investing and capitalizing on good market opportunities for the last sort of 8 years now, which is awesome. So we'll start today's chat with just a little bit of a background information so people can sort of understand where you've come from and sort of what got you into property investing in the beginning, because you and Davo were super different to like our mates growing up. Like when you guys were younger, definitely had a different sort of mindset toward money and investing and things like that to like most of the boys that we grew up with. So tell us a little bit about yourself, where you grew up and what you do and things like that. And then we'll start talking more about the investments.
Okay. So I guess my journey started out of high school, to start with, started an electrical apprenticeship. And from there, I sort of looked at it and went, I kind of wanted more from life. So went through, studied engineering and project management. And then with the same company, very lucky to have been there for so long, just slowly worked my way through the ranks. And part of that mindset, I guess, of wanting more was I figured, okay, well, I can increase my salary. Yeah. But then how do I also increase my wealth? Yeah. So for me, I realized early on that, it's hard to work your way to financial freedom. So I guess my journey started as most people do with Rich Dad Poor Dad, right? Yeah. Make your money work for you. So initially, I guess with my property investment journey, I was going to buy a primary place of residence in Cronulla. Yeah. So it's a 2-bedroom unit. A bit run down, wanted to do a bit of renovation. So unfortunately, I got outbidden at the time. I was pretty upset about it.
What year was that when you were negotiating that deal and looking to buy your first joint? Was that back 2016?
2016, I believe so, yeah. So from there, Josh, our other mutual friend, so he had a chat to me and said, oh, look, Simon, I knew Simon, I didn't know Ben at the time, said Simon's brother's moved up to Queensland and he started a buyer's agency. So I went, you know what, I'll have a chat to him. Had a chat to him. I didn't know anything about property, like zero. So he went from the start, he walked me through, everything that you need to know as a young investor.
It would have been pretty weird to go from I'm buying my home in the place that I want to live, in the town that I've sort of spent the last 10 years that I know the most, to then going, well, screw that, I'm going to keep renting, and I'm going to trust this random guy with my money and go buy an investment property in Brisbane that you probably knew little about as well. How has that changed in your mind to go from PPR in Cronulla to investing in this foreign market that you didn't know much about?
It was massive. So I was skeptical at the start because I didn't, like you said, someone you don't know, trusting with this lump sum of money for an investment strategy that you don't know anything about. So it's kind of a blind leap of faith at the time, being 8 years ago, 22 years old. And then the best thing about the process for me was, I think we had a quick chat about this earlier, was we initially secured a property for the first one. And Benny went back and did another inspection and looked at it and said, look, this isn't the right one for us. We're going to pass it in. We'll find you another one. So instantly, I trusted the process from that moment on.
And that generally happens like that for a lot of our clients as well. You get into the process, we'll develop the strategy, we'll start looking at properties, and then you'll check one out. And I know for me personally, when I looked at my first ever property that I was going to put an offer on, I just got so emotionally attached to that one. I'm like, no, this is the one it needs to be. And same situation, with sort of dug a little bit deeper into the due diligence and it wasn't going to stack up to the best. So then you go for another one, and then in hindsight, that second one is always going to end up being better than the first, I find. It's sort of everything happens for a reason. But then, with that property that you guys ended up securing, do you mind if I share the suburb?
Yeah, go for it.
So it's in Capera, which is about 8-9 kilometres from Brisbane CBD. It was a bit of a ghetto, you know, back in the day, and it still got a little bit of a stigma about it, still a bit more housing commission, but it hasn't mattered for you, right? Like, you've had it rented out the whole entire time and you've generated some amazing capital growth. So pick that one up, I think around mid to late 2016. And then this is the value of timing as well, because you get that confirmation bias by like, okay, cool, I've decided to buy a house in Brisbane as opposed to an apartment in Sydney. Two different stages of the real estate cycle. I guess, like, to come back to sort of the occupation side of things as well, like to try and scale things back, you did electrical apprenticeship, and that then led to you doing engineering and project managing. Was that a plan, or did that just sort of happen?
No, it wasn't a plan at all. So it just kind of happened, I think, naturally through the mindset that I guess I developed it. I didn't always have it, but starting off as an apprentice and just wanting more from life. So I seen, you know, the tradesmen were earning more money than the apprentices. So when I became a tradesman, I went, okay, where can I go next? And then the next logical step within my organisation was to become a project engineer. So I became a project engineer. And then from there, I had a great manager at the time. His name was Darko. And he said to me, okay, so now you've become a project engineer, what's next? And that really hit me, because I didn't have a plan.
No.
My plan was...
You're sort of at the top at that point in life.
Yeah, I went, okay, I'm a young guy. I've gotten this, you know, great position. This is it. And then him having that conversation with me just further fueled that desire for more.
Yeah.
And so, as we just mentioned before, you know, like trying to get more out of life, I also looked at, you know, you can earn a higher income, which is great for serviceability and what the amount of money you can borrow, but also you can't work your way to financial freedom. So that's when the journey began, looking at alternate income streams, alternate revenue streams.
Yeah. And what I've loved most about your journey as well is, like, you've been able to capitalize on the market and buy properties, but you've also lived a fucking epic life over the last like 10 years as well. Like, how many times have you been overseas over the last 8 years?
Oh, a lot. We used to go, you know,
at least once a year, right?
Yeah, at least.
So like, being able to sort of save, budget, invest, travel, enjoy, you know, your hobbies and things like that. What advice would you give to people? Like, how did that happen? Did somebody teach you how to budget and how to save, and you've just maintained those habits throughout your whole entire life? Or let's talk a little bit about that, because like, I find as though a lot of people in Sydney have a similar journey to you, where it's like, you know, you start at earning a little bit of money as an apprentice or like a graduate, then you work your way up and you increase the income. But I talk to a lot of other people down there, and none of them have 3 properties like you. None of them are in your financial situation. So what have you done differently to the average person that's enabled you to capitalize on these investment properties that you have bought with like savings and budgeting and things like that?
Okay, so I guess I didn't have, you know, structured learning growing up in regards to saving and investing. So most, you know, I was taught, as most people are, save your money. You know, when you're young. So I guess that comes into the rich dad, poor dad mindset that we just quickly talked about before. So for me, I sort of learned those habits, self-taught, you know, surrounding myself with like-minded people. Yourself, Josh, other mates that I have through work, you know. A lot of the people that I surrounded myself with had that same mentality and mindset of, you know, let's get more out of life. Let's not just be happy with the 9 to 5 and, you know, work Monday to Friday, party on the weekend, and then repeat and just be stuck in that sort of cycle. So I was very fortunate that within my organisation I could work a lot of weekends. So you'd probably know me for working every weekend for the last...
Never there, LT.
That's it. So the last 13 years has been majority of weekends. But in saying that, I've missed out on a lot, you know, being around birthdays, things like that, you know, nights out when we were younger, but it has allowed me to travel and invest. So I guess it was short-term pain for a long-term gain to set myself up for the future.
Yeah. And rather than blowing like, you know, $500 on a weekend at the local pub, you're like, well, no, I'm going to save, work, and then I'm going to go over to Thailand, or I'm going over to Europe, or I'm going to the States or something like that, which is like way cooler than just a beer at the pub. Yeah,
so don't get me wrong, I didn't sacrifice everything.
No.
So I still had fun, still went away, still did the things, but it wasn't as often, wasn't as frequent, you know.
Yeah.
So I was always always working, as you said, never there.
Yeah, exactly. And then what we did from, investment property number 1, 2016, you got sort of used to holding that one for a little while. Then I believe it was 2018, 2 years later, or maybe 19, we were sort of looking at reinvesting again. Now, with that, was that sort of due to the equity increase in your first property that you bought, or was it from building up another full deposit for investment property number 2?
So it was from the equity build up
in
the first property. So my mindset it's not a linear journey, as you'd know. So,
No.
it had the ups and downs. So my mindset initially was got the first place, redrew, got the deposit, and then it took me a good 6 to 12 months to go again. So I kind of fell off the bandwagon a bit and got back on. So for me, it was redrawing the equity in the property to then get back on track and reinvest and hopefully grow the portfolio a bit more.
Yeah, which is so convenient. That's like the power of investing, right? Like rather than you having to save your way to get to where you want to be, you can leverage off that portfolio. And because you've timed it so well, you still got super low debt levels. But then what we did with investment property number 2 is because I just bought my first property, I think around about the same time that we were negotiating for your one. And we're like, man, the value is here, which we looked on the Redcliffe Peninsula. I think it was in Clontarf, and the idea there was to buy like the shittest house on a great street in a great pocket that you could come back and knock it down. Now,
like you said, the timing in the market is massive.
It's so massive, hey.
And I also remember when I first came to you for the second property, that had been on the market for a good 6 months.
Yeah.
And then it had dropped. I think they wanted 400K, I believe it was. And it dropped.
Remember.
It dropped straight down to that, and you called me straight away and said,
let's
jump
go.
on.
Yeah. And it's good to be able to jump onto those things. And then, once again, it's just that confirmation bias. It's like, okay, like timing is important. So then you're in a city Brisbane suburb within 10 Ks of the CBD. Your next one is like less than like 500 meters away from a great golf course on the region. It's about 1.5 K away, maybe 1 K away from the bay there as well. Shops, cafes, restaurants, shopping centers, schools, everything that you want is really nearby. And then conveniently, just across the road is now up for next gen zoning. So we're hoping that that's going to sprawl out to your property, and you'll be able to do a bit of a duplex or something in the future when you need to knock it down.
Yeah, that is the plan. So initially we were going to knock it down straight away.
Do it immediately.
Yeah, but I've secured a good tenant, like we were discussing. He plots around, he fixes, all the little things that need to be fixed. He's a great tenant. So for now, until the time's right, till the zoning changes and we can make the most of the improvements to the property, I'll probably hold off until then. Yeah,
nice. And then let's talk about investment property number 3, because then a fair few years went by. Bought that in 2019, and then started this year. We were sort of looking around for something different. Wanted to diversify the portfolio again, get something that wasn't going to be a headache like that property. That even though the tenant's great, like it's still you got to spend money on that one to get it up to where you want to be. So you were just like, hey, Simon, Ben, I don't want something that I need to manage or like upgrade or anything like that. I just want something ready to go. So you took action real quick on that epic property that I feel as though we bought that like 40, 50K below market value compared to other properties that we were buying at the time as well. So tell us about investment property number 3, how that one felt, because you had a lot more experience and time and I guess education under your belt by that point as well.
Yeah, I guess investment property number 3, it was a lot easier to start the process. So 1 to 2 was a lot easier, 2 to 3 is even easier. So I've learned pretty much from that first initial time when Ben passed in the first property, just to trust the process with you guys.
Yeah.
You obviously know what you're doing. You buy a lot of property. That the doubt of what to do and if to trust it, or when, if sometimes you hold on and you wait, I thought, why wait? You guys called me, I think 2 weeks later.
Yeah.
And said, we found one, straight in. So,
ready to go.
Yeah,
and
so that process was great, yeah.
That property is expected to double in value from when you bought it by the 2032 Olympic Games, according to all the analysts as well. So, fingers crossed that happens as well. And I think it's just been an amazing journey to date. A lot of hard work, a lot of sacrifice. Now, when it comes to like investing, read Rich Dad Poor Dad, you've obviously read a heap of other books and stuff about investing and podcasts and things like that. How come property aligns more with you than say like stocks or shares or something like that?
I think for me, looking at the risk profile of stocks versus property over time, property more aligned with my values and what I needed out of life. But also as well, I like the idea of debt leveraging. So, with your $60,000 deposit, you can then go and borrow that at 10% LVR from a bank and get 600K.
Yeah.
So if the market appreciates 10% on 600K, you're going to make 60K. Whereas if you've got that 60K in stocks and it appreciates 10%, you're going to make 6K.
Yeah.
So for me, that was sort of how I looked at it, and that's sort of why I've stayed into property and look at it that way. And I've just seen the results over time following the 18.6 year property cycle, following the updates from your team,
Has that sort of given you a bit more confidence as well, understanding a bit of a longer term cycle? Because buying the first one in 2016, we had 17 and 18, the Royal Banking Commission, where Sydney property prices dropped by about 15%, Melbourne by like 10% or 12%, and Brisbane by like 2 to 5%. Then we had 2020, the the COVID and the pandemic and lockdown and everything like that, the media saying that the property market's going to drop. And then obviously this year as well, a bit of turbulence around the world and things like that. So has understanding long-term cycles alleviated a lot of the stress and pain throughout that journey?
Yeah, it has. So, obviously history doesn't always predict the future, but it does give me a bit more confidence leading into it. So when I do see the negative sentiment in the media, you can understand, that's not always how it is. And then you look at the data, you look at the numbers, and it's generally not exactly what the media is saying anyway.
Exactly.
So, and following, podcasts or following a lot of your information, it gives you a lot of confidence, like you said, interpreting the cycle and seeing where things should be going, or seeing where people are saying things are and where they actually are. Yeah, it does help a lot.
And then there's the triggers as well. And it's like, the government will come out and go, here's this stimulus package. And then you're like, well, that relates to exactly what Phil says in the cycle that should be happening right now. So once again, you got that confirmation bias moving forward. So I guess now that you've got a really solid portfolio, you've got a really good foundational base that will sort of provide you with the passive income that you want longer term. What's next? We haven't even really talked about that for the last sort of 6 or so months. What do you perceive for yourself for the future moving forward, and what would you like to sort of achieve or do over the next 10, 15 years or so?
Okay, so for me, like we said, I've worked super hard the last 13 or so years, most weekends. So I'm going to take, from the end of this year, I'm going to take 12 months off, bit of a reset.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, so going to do a bit of time traveling overseas, looking at different income streams, see if I can try and look into other avenues, different investments, sort of maybe look at opening businesses, things like that.
Yeah.
Just to take a step back from the, exchanging my time for money all the time.
Yeah. 13 years is a long time, bro.
It is a long time. Grateful for the opportunities that I've had throughout that time. But for me, the future looks like that. 12 months of travel and, sort of looking to improve in other areas of life.
It'd be interesting to see what it does as well. It's cool that you're not financially free yet, but because you've got so many properties in the market, it's just you can just go away for 12 months and not feel as though you're losing any time. And then having that separation and not working 60 hours a week anymore, you'll have a bit more freedom to be well, what does my future look like? What would a sick business look like if I were to do that? Or what does becoming a full-time investor look like, or something like that? But when you're just living in it, working so hard, you don't have that ability to just separate yourself from yourself.
Yeah, 100%. And that's what I'm taking it as. I'm taking this 12 months as a time to, reset, reflect, and see where I can build and move forward. So I know myself won't be able to sit still for 12 months. So I'll see how I go and see where I end up. But yeah, that's the goal. The next 12 months, come back, have a reset, and then look at, the future investment strategy of these properties, as we discussed, is I want to knock down 2 of the 3 duplexes in the long run. That's the ideal situation. Whether that happens or how I get there is a different story. That's what I need to map out.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the ideal goal.
Yeah, and then maybe sell number 3 to pay for those projects, or pay down some debt on those projects potentially as well. That'd be so cool to see. So when you think about the last 6 years of that investment journey, if you were to talk to your 22-year-old self or your 23-year-old self again, what would you do differently, or what would you tell that person?
I would say to that person, start earlier.
Yeah, every time, right?
Yeah, that's it. So from, the 18 to 24, 18 to 23, instead of prioritizing going out, look at studying more, look at, cooling myself up to invest more and then getting in the market earlier, because time in the market beats timing every time, right?
100%.
So that's what I'd tell myself. But then on the other hand, I'd always say, don't rush.
Yeah. It's all going to work out.
Exactly.
Because we had those times growing up where we're partying and, traveling and just doing whatever we wanted. And it's like, had we not had that, then we might be living with a bit more regret now, rather than going, I'm so done with those days that I'm ready for this next phase.
Yeah, exactly. So I agree with that totally. So I guess yin and yang, bit of both.
Always, right? The duality of life, right?
Yeah.
Like it's always going to be there. And, that's something that I thought has been really interesting on your journey over the last few years as well, is just, following that spirituality path and like not attaching to that Sydney rat race where it's just like more. And you're just like more like, nah, like it's about me and happiness. And, I'm just going to focus on my own path and journey and things like that. Do you feel as though that's had a meaningful impact on your life as well?
Oh, massively. Because I was, like you said, the rat race. I'd trying to just build. And then I've taken, like you said, over the last few years, can't really pinpoint exactly when it was, but just slowly taking a step back and thought, okay, well, how can I better leverage my time? And instead of working all the time, how can I pull back, be happier, find more meaning and enjoyment in things other than work, and trying to get financial freedom, to look at the other avenues of my life that, in the past I might have neglected.
Yeah.
So looking more into that, spending more attention and time on that. So, yeah.
It's crazy to think like how much of an impact that one comment from Darky, was it Darko?
Oh, Darko.
Darko, just saying like, what's next? And just planting that tiny little seed in your mind. And it's like, had have you not had that mentor in your life to do that, it could look so fucking different to where you're at right now. And it's just so fascinating to think that like, you can just plant that little seed in somebody's mind and completely change their future. Because had he not done that, then you might have just been like, hey, look, I'm just going to buy my joint down in Sydney. I'm going to park some money in super, maybe dabble in investing a little bit. But then for somebody to know you and have faith in you and then just go, well, this isn't good enough for you, Luke. What's next? And then that's completely changed your course of life moving forward. And, now the world is your oyster. And it's like you're talking about buying 3 properties in a short period of time, then now, separating yourself from that intense decade of work and investing and study and everything that comes along with that, to now give yourself that time where you got 12 months to go away. And then I guarantee you'll find some fucking awesome business idea to start rolling out. And then, it'll be another journey of life. And it's just funny how there's no destination that we're working towards here, right? Like it's about finding choices and following our passions. And how has property investing enabled you to have more choices and freedom in life to sort of do these things?
It's interesting you say choices. So for me, I've done, like you said, done a lot of work recently in the last few years, looking at psychology of investing and also looking at aspects of life. So I boiled it down to why I work so hard to try and become financially free or set myself up in a better position so that I'd have choices. So I could have more choices for my life instead of being stuck in that rat race. So property investing for me has definitely opened my eyes to the possibility of choices. So not having to work to 65, relying on your super runs out, you're on a pension. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, everybody has their own things, but for me, it doesn't align with my values and how I want to live my life.
It's not good enough.
No, exactly. So for me, the property investing's opened my eyes up to the fact that you can have choices and the information's out there. And the thing that blows my mind is that the information's out there, but not everyone knows it. So when you learn certain things, you sit there and think, why does everyone not know this? So I think channels like this and, the stuff that you and Ben are doing, it's awesome. Just educating people and helping people out. Yeah,
we're talking about that off camera as well. And it's so funny how once you actually figure it out, it's like, why isn't this more common? Like, why don't people talk about it more often? And that's why we do have the channel where we can sort of talk to people like yourself that have been through that journey and overcome those challenges, because it certainly hasn't come without its adversity. You know, you've had to deal with a lot of shit with those properties over the years, and like crappy tenants, crappy property managers, like, you know, tumultuous economic environments. Like it's hard, but like overcoming those challenges and still moving towards the version of yourself that you want to become builds more resilience, builds more confidence, you get more experience. And then every time you're planning for the future, you're making decisions off of like a higher self, and you're planning for the future off a higher self as well, which I think is like such a beautiful thing that property investing can provide you with. It's like, if it's not about the financial security that it's going to provide you with, it's about challenging yourself and overcoming challenges and moving towards a better version of yourself, because, you know, that's your life, right? With work, with investing, with training, you know, with MMA and everything that you do in your life. It's not, I'm, you know, working towards a destination. I'm just working at being a better version of myself, right?
Yeah, 100%. And I like what you said there. It is hard, but you choose your hard.
Yeah.
Hard is, having to work 9 to 5, 265. Or you choose your hard of investing. Yeah, there's challenges. It's not fun always, you know. I'm currently dealing with some issues with one of my properties now. It's been an ongoing thing for a few years. So it is hard, but you choose your hard. And yeah, like you said, it's not so much about the destination. If you focus on the destination, I think I remember Ben talking a little bit about this. Once he reached the destination, he just thought, oh, well, this isn't how I thought I'd feel. So listening to people's stories like that have gotten to where they've planned, you know, it's made me shift my focus on more of the journey. So trying to enjoy more out of every day instead of focusing so hard on this end goal, that once you hit that end goal, there's going to be nobody there throwing you a party.
No.
You know? So,
and that's why I love your long-term goal isn't to be like, well, yeah, you'd love to have like a 6-figure income for life, but there's no specific goal that you're working towards. I guess that'll come like from the 12 months off, like once you get like that time and just the ability to process your thoughts and ideas and things like that and figure it out what it is that you're going to be doing next. But yeah, it just gives you so much freedom to look at different things there. But I want to end the podcast on this one question, which is, you know, what are 3 key lessons that you've learned along your investment journey or life so far?
I guess that's a good question. So I guess point number 1 would be start early as possible. Don't wait. You know, you miss 100% of the opportunities you don't take. So,
love that.
You know, if you have the opportunity, do your research. It might be scary, but, you know, growth starts when on the edge of your comfort zone, right? So that'd be number 1. Number 2, I'd say would be trust the process. And you have, you know, a lot more time than you think. I feel like I put a lot of pressure on myself as well to get everything done so quickly. I'm sure we all do, you know. So I guess things take time, and trust the process. So I guess that'd be number 2. And then number 3, don't be so hard on yourself. You know? Just
take it easy.
Think it'll come when it's supposed to. Everything happens for a reason.
Yeah, and we are where we are for a reason as well. But I couldn't agree with you more, man. Thank you so much for coming on. Like, just for everyone, some context now that we're at the end, like LT messaged me a couple of days ago going, hey man, I'm in northern New South Wales. Should I come up to the sunny coast to catch up? I'm like, man, I'd absolutely love to. Let's catch up. We'll do a podcast. I've kind of thrown you in the deep end here. First ever podcast that you've ever recorded. And I thought you fucking crushed it, man. So well done. And thank you so much for sharing your story. I know it's a little bit weird sometimes sharing that amount of personal details with randoms out there, but where we're coming from is just trying to help motivate people that were in your situation in the past, that, you know, help people that are suffering from the challenges that you suffered from in the past to actually kick into gear and move towards the person that they want to be and start achieving their goals. Because as you said, like, to paraphrase, like, doing nothing is going to change nothing, but doing something can absolutely change everything. And I think that you're a living proof of that, man. And just want to say super proud of you and super excited for the future that we're going to have together, and can't wait to see where we take this stuff, bro.
Thanks, Tim. Thanks for having me on. It's been great. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Legend. That was epic, man.
Oh, shit. I was so nervous.
Dude, you know. Woo, that's a wrap.
That's a wrap.
Have
Cool,
bro. Yeah. Oh, sweaty. So sweaty. Oh, that's good. That's so nice, eh? Oh.